Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone.
Hi, thanks for joining us. Today on Have a Seat on the Porch, we interview Mary Martin. Mary has been my friend for the past 25 years, and in these past years, I've watched Mary blossom into a woman who is passionate, resilient, and full of joy in life. And I think this stems from her passion for the arts. So join us as we celebrate Mary's uniqueness, her beautiful voice, and also her journey in completing her doctorate in music. Mary, thanks for having a seat on the porch. Mary, can you tell our listeners where you are now with your career and with school so they have a better idea of kind of what you're up to?
Absolutely. So I am currently, right this moment, in scenic and beautiful Bloomington, Indiana, which is about 5.5 hours drive southwest from the Metro Detroit area. It is snowing a little bit. The Indiana University Jacobs School of Music is the long fancy title for where I'm currently working on my doctoral work, and I'm very lucky to be here. It's one of the very best music schools in the country. People might wonder why anyone would get a doctorate in voice, which is a valid question. And the answer is, in my opinion, the best reason to get a doctorate in voice performance is to teach. And that's exactly what I want to do. I want to teach in a university setting. I have grown to really love teaching since I got my master's. It's very fulfilling. Um, and resilience is a huge part of performing and a huge part of the arts. We have to hear no and work on a shoestring budget 90% of the time, 95% of the time, especially right now with COVID. So anyway, yeah, I'm hoping to teach, but right these days the field is so saturated that to get a good teaching position, you also have to be actively performing. So you can't really just compartmentalize your skill set into just academia and teaching and research. You also have to strap on the ball gown and step on the stage and hope that people will give you the opportunity to do so. You know, you have to keep hoofing it and auditioning and putting yourself out there. So it's a whole lot going on, but I absolutely love what I do and what I hope to keep doing. So
I always pretended that I knew this information, but when it comes down to it, I have no idea. You're a soprano, right?
yes.
What does that mean?
Good question.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? I saw the show and that's as close as I got to it. I have no idea. So I'm very, yeah. What does that mean?
In a choir, there's typically, if you're singing in a choir with male and female voices or treble and changed voices, we're still working on a way that respects that not everybody is a binary gender, so not everybody identifies as male and female. We're still working on ways to respect that in the music world. So I'm not sure what the correct. I just wanted to acknowledge that, but typically people who identify as female sing soprano and alto are the two voice classifications for females or women, and then tenor and bass are the ones for men, and soprano and tenor are the higher ones, and alto and bass are the lower ones.
So the song Let It Go in Frozen, that note that she hits,
Yes.
what is that? What adjective do you use for that?
What is that? Well, Adina Menzel sings that, and she is known as a belter. So she and belters, that's a whole musical theater voice classification thing. What I went over was more classical music or opera. So she is actually I would consider her a mezzo belter. So she's technically a mezzo belter, because belting is a type of like that sort of like what we associate with like a power ballad, like Celine Dion singing, or um, Jennifer Hudson is a belter. Voices like that where it's just like a lot of power. That's typically like more of most pop singers I would consider mezzos, altos.
Where do you fall in comparison to the mezzo?
Higher. So a mezzo
Oh,
is
you're
like an
high.
alto. So I've tried to sing like Moana. I've tried to sing like Elsa. It's I could do it when I was younger pretty well. Maybe not so much anymore. It's a different type of vocal technique that you have to really hone in on, and that's just not that's not the technique that I use most, that I need for myself and what I'm doing right now most frequently. So um I love a belter. Ooh, I love a belter. There's nothing. Oh, and like you get goosebumps from it. But yeah, I would. Adina Menzel is a mezzo belter.
See, in the shower, I can do all of it. So what would you call me?
That's right. I would call you a leggero tenor with a high spinto extension. That's not offensive.
That sounds amazing.
That's
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, I mean, it's already rigorous to get into the program, and I can only imagine how rigorous once you've accepted what you have to do to stay in. I mean, you're already mentioning you're teaching along with finishing your own studies. So how do you juggle that, and what does that look like on a day-to-day basis for you?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Talking about resilience in the arts is huge, and there's a lot of times people who don't live it might associate like someone who composes music with someone who's like dark and stormy and like scribbling furiously by candlelight while they're dying a slow death and like depressed and all these other things. And mental health is a real problem with the Jacob School of Music has its own counselor just for the music students, which is pretty awesome that they have
Oh,
acknowledged that problem. I'm taking a wellness class for musicians this semester, so maybe at the end of it I can have more information about that.
yeah.
But we've learned from an early age that your friends are your competition directly, and there's a lot on the line. A lot of Indiana University puts on typically 6 operas a year, and there are still people that go through and never get a role ever, or some people like barely get a chorus part, like to sing in the chorus.
And
And
you have a lead role in this next opera, right?
I do, yes. There's an opera in April that I have a lead in, which is great. But
Congratulations.
Right?
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't breeze over that one.
I
That's wait,
know.
let's take a moment and let's think about that for a second.
okay, yeah. I mean, it's wonderful, and
Yeah.
you get your heart set on something. I mean, school aside, once you get into the school, you get your heart set on a role or a project or working with a teacher or something, and then you don't get it. A lot of the times you do not get it. And it's not, and working with my students, they also, they go up for a role in high school, or they do a competition and they get a lower score than they wanted. And you have to have this conversation over and over and over with yourself that you can be the best peach in the orchard. You can be the best, juiciest, most perfectly orange peach. But if they're looking for strawberries, and in those situations, I have a theory from my own resilience that if the person who got what I wanted, or if the person who like had success that I feel like a flare of jealousy about, because of course that happens, I think to myself, okay, are they a good person and are they a hard worker? And if they are a good person to me, and if they're a hard worker that I've seen, then I say, you know what? We bless it and we release it. Let them have it, let them go. They worked hard, they're a good person.
I love that. Like, I think that's such a healthy way to, one, sit with those feelings and say, it's okay to have these feelings. It's not like you're wishing them to do um, not do well in the performance, but you're allowed to feel anything and everything, and you allow yourself that. And I know that that comes across when you're talking to your vocal students and also preparing them for whatever roles they're auditioning for. And I think that's so crucial. So tell us a little bit how COVID has thrown all of that into kind of a frenzy and how that impacts your day to day and also with the performing arts. What's going on? How, we can't even see you perform in person right now.
Every performer that you know needs a hug right now. Let me just put it that way, because restaurants are getting a lot of focus, which again they should, but like what about what you do in your free time? You go home and watch Netflix, you listen to the new Taylor Swift album. What do you think those artists are doing? I mean, Taylor Swift, whatever, but the rest of us are, we have nothing. And a lot of people, like, I am so grateful I am in school right now and I have a stipend through the university, at least through May, and I am taken care of. I have health care, but so many of my friends right now are not in that boat. They have had to completely rethink their future, completely rethink their present. They don't have time to sort of like, I might like go pursue this other career path, but I have like a year to do it. No, they have to provide for families now. And that's really, really challenging. And I mean, I don't have the answer, but our country, the United States, does not care for the arts like other countries do. Other countries have given every freelance artist like taking care of them, given them money, made sure that they're provided for, and here funding keeps getting cut on every level. I mean, even before COVID happened,
Mhm.
music programs at schools were being cut, and music programs at nonprofits that were, community engagement programs. Everything is really feeling heat right now. So it's a pretty bleak time.
I have like a maybe a weird question.
I love it.
It's kind of just done. I mean, so when you're singing in person and there's somebody playing the piano or playing the harp or whatever instrument, the normal social distancing aspect is 6 feet because you're singing and you're pushing so hard. Does that get elongated? Is it 12 feet or 20 feet depending on where the people are? Is that a real question? I feel like
That's an excellent question. Yeah. So, a lot of studies have been done. We're hearing that 6 feet is okay if everyone's wearing proper masking. And it helps if we're not facing each other. So, like when I did my recital, my pianist was over there facing this way and I was here facing out. So my droplets hypothetically were not totally spewing at her. And I was wearing like a serious mask, because the other thing is for singing, like a regular mask is fine every day, but when you're singing, you have to drop your jaw like a lot. So when you drop your jaw, it yanks the mask down and your nose pops out. So you
um,
really need to make sure you have, either you modify what you do with your jaw, which some people are doing, but I can't do that. I'm 33 now. Like, it's too much. I can't. I gotta get the room. So I had to buy a special mask, which was $40, and I had to. But now I can drop my jaw. I can do anything, and my nose stays covered. But to answer your question, do like to have a little more room if we can. But 6 feet is typically what we get.
You mentioned to me something I never thought about, and this kind of circles back to what you were talking about with mental health and performances about community choir, the benefits of that, and the mental wellness impact of the individuals participating. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that so our listeners, one, know what that may look like? What are local arts? How can they find them? How can they participate? And how can we support?
Your local arts organizations are really, really important. Every community, everything we know as entertainment has its roots in the arts, which I mean, I guess is kind of an obvious statement, but it's something to really think about. And if we don't continue to fuel that on our local level, we're not going to provide any new talent to like go on American Idol or to go on and to sing on the stages of the Met and La Scala and to be the next Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr. We need to, that starts at home. Those people all came from somewhere, and all of those kids, played the alligator in Peter Pan, and all of those kids started as, third fairy from the right in Cinderella. Everyone started somewhere. And so when I will say, when I was 5 years old, my Aunt Mary, who I'm named after, likes to tell a story about how adults were trying to have a conversation and I was trying to perform. and they weren't listening to me. So what did I do? I clapped at them and said, "Hey, I'm singing. You need to listen to me." If you have a child that is very outgoing and finds, every raised surface that's even a couple inches off the ground is a stage, put them on a stage. They will learn discipline. They'll learn how to read music. They'll learn how to work as a team. They'll learn how to get to perform and to deliver something in public and to stand up and see a project through. If you think you might want to perform, if you think like, hey, I want to try guitar lessons, or I want to try private voice lessons, or I want to sing in a choir, there is an article out there that talks about the benefits of singing in a choral setting as like an older person. So I'm thinking like 50, 67. I mean, 50 isn't that old, let's be honest, but like as someone who's, not in high school anymore, let's just say. And there's a medical benefit to, I don't know if medical is the right word, but there's a health benefit to singing with a group of people. It lowers your blood pressure. It helps with socialization. It helps you get out of the house when you're a senior. It helps with depression. It helps with anxiety.
How do we support you mentally from a distance? If we're next to you, we can hug you, but what does that type of support look like for you, and how can we as a community provide that?
Get ready to support where you can when
Right.
everyone is going to need a major boost of interest and attention and attendance in the next few months. And I think donations are huge if they're a nonprofit. Just checking in with your friends who are performers and saying like, "Hey, how you doing? This must be a really shit time for you." Like,
Yes.
how are you handling it? Do you need anything? Because some people have real needs and real bills to be paid and might need actual money if you have it. And that means more to them than sharing a Facebook post. And that is, a crucial mandatory need. I just don't forget about us. I think just like acknowledging that a lot of artists basic needs are not being met right now. So I think just asking and showing interest and saying, "Hey, I'm here if you need anything."
I just thank you so much for joining us today, talking about resilience in the arts, how we can better support local artists. Will you let our listeners know where we can see you or watch you perform next?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you both so much for having me. I think this is my first podcast, so it's very exciting. Thrilled to be here on the porch.
Thank you for having a seat.
Thank you for having space for me. Thank you.